Hi everyone, my name is Fred Dixon. I'm the product manager for BigBlueButton, and I'm going to give you an update on the project. So I'll show you there's lots of development going on here. So you can see the guys here. Just wave. Here we go. All right, so let me give you an update on the project itself. And I always assume that people haven't heard about the project before, so I'm going to give a quick update on just the background, where we're at, and I'll talk about what we've done at the summit. And there's a picture, just in case I wasn't able to get a shot. So BigBlueButton exists because there are a large number of large number of degree-granting institutions moving towards online learning. So in North America alone, there are about 4,500 degree-granting institutions, about 2,500 secondary institutions, and according to some statistics, about 98% of them are actually moving online. And there's a huge social benefit, not only for the teachers, but the students. The students around the world can participate in learning that they otherwise wouldn't be able to. If you look at the learning management ecosystem, there's about over 500 LMSs, and there are about 145 virtual classrooms, virtual conferencing software, which could be applied to the classroom. So why does BigBlueButton exist? Well, what about open source solutions? So BigBlueButton is an open source web conferencing system for online learning. It's the market we focus on. We believe every student with a web browser should have access to a high quality online learning experience, and we intend to make that possible with BigBlueButton, and it's open source. This is a screenshot. BigBlueButton started at 2007 at Carleton University. This was an early design. And there are 3 use cases we focus on. One-to-one, which is like virtual coaching, virtual office hours, small group collaboration, students getting together, sharing their webcam, and one-to-many, where one teacher is sharing information with others online. And we say less than 50 users, but it's not hard-coded. It's our way of saying we're not building a webinar system to support 500 students. That's not a collaborative environment. We do the core sharing of desktop, audio, chat, video polling, and slides, as you can see here. And it's meant to be collaborative. So here's an example where in the newer version, the video doc lets you share multiple webcams. And here there are 4 of them in a row. And when I make the video doc more of a square, here I am sharing 8 webcams, or 8 webcams, and I click on one of them and they become larger. And we record all the content for playback as well. The architecture is based on a number of open source components. 2 in particular I would always want to point out is FreeSwitch, open source multimedia switch. It's doing the audio conferencing right now. And there's Redis, and underneath it's Red 5, which is the open source Flash, or open source equivalent of Adobe's Flash Media Server. It's handling all the video and storage of content. In terms of growth, lots of good growth over the last number of years. We're up to about 4,400 likes on Facebook, over 2,500 likes or followers on Twitter, and lots of good forks on GitHub. Lots of people looking at and building on top of BigBlueButton. On the mailing list, there are over 2,000 developers now. And many months we'll have about 200 messages between developers back and forth, which is great. Lots of good traffic. Lots of good localization. We use Transifex. These are the languages that have over 90% of the strings localized. Anybody can contribute around the world, so this is done entirely by our community. And here's a screenshot of last year at Porto Alegre. This is November 2014. Here we were 6 months later in Ottawa, and here we are back again in Porto Alegre. These are the committers to the project, and we're very happy to share that there's another committer that's joined us. So the Anton Gregoriev has joined us as a committer, which means he has responsibilities for overseeing commits to the code and the ability to accept commits in the code. His area of expertise is the HTML5 client, having worked on it for almost 2 years now. And he assisted in refactoring the server to actually get the HTML5 client on top of the latest builds of BigBlueButton, which is why we're able to develop on top of master. And he's also active helping other people with the HTML5 client and BigBlueButton dev. In terms of adoptions, some really good success stories and use cases. University of West Scotland, Darren Ricketts has some videos up talking about his experience using BigBlueButton. This is University of South Alabama. I just did a Google and I can see that they're talking about BigBlueButton as their conferencing tool. And National University College, an online university, They recently switched from a proprietary system, which I think is about a year ago they switched. And then with the previous system, they had about 50 support tickets a month. And with BigBlueButton, they dropped to about 6 to 7, which was really good. The measure of success for any deployment is usually one important one is how much effort it takes to support it. And this speaks to the values we have of stability and usability. Recently, the Moodle organization in Australia announced Moodle Cloud, which is a free version of Moodle for small groups of people. And it included one integration, and that was BigBlueButton, which is also free for up to 6 users, but no recordings. So if you want to check out the latest version of BigBlueButton, check it out on Moodle Cloud. Probably the biggest success we had in terms of adoption was the US Department of Defense. Recently, the Defense Information Systems Agency rolled out a collaborative environment built on BigBlueButton, replacing an existing proprietary one. And they publicly stated they expect to save at least $12 million a year with the system they built around BigBlueButton. You can find more information by just Googling DISA and BigBlueButton. And in terms of integration with us, this is the API that we have. Very simple, very straightforward. It's what all the integrations use to build on top of us. Create a meeting, join a meeting as it's running, and this is all documented in our API. We're thinking about improving it. We have some thoughts about how we might improve it, which I'll share in a moment. Lots of integrations, Moodle, Sakai, Canvas, Gemzabar. We're certified Learning Tools Interoperability 1.0, WordPress, and others. And again, they're all using that existing integration. In terms of our roadmap, right now we're in the beta phase for 1.0, which we released on October 5th. And if you've seen us in the forums, we've been releasing updates to the beta, fixing bugs, and what we're working towards is getting the bug count to 0 so we can get to release candidate. And that's following our development process. In terms of the latest release, the beta, it's cool to see this list because last year a lot of this stuff was still in development. I'll go through some of the items we've got in the beta release. The polling module, it's the one we're quite happy in terms of how it landed. It's very simple and reflects the idea that in a presentation, a lot of the context is around the slide. So an instructor would probably want to ask if they're doing a lesson with the students, might ask what's on the slide and ask the students to give their response and would like to just get A, B, or C from the users. So we made it very easy for the instructor to ask like a yes, no, true, false question, or for example, A, B, or C. When the instructor does do it, they'll see a dialog box come up. They'll see the poll results in real time. And then at any point, they can publish them or close it. If they publish it, other people can see it. When the poll is active, the slides just move up a little bit, and the poll button choices come beneath the slides. So there's no dialogue that obscures it. The slide is the context. You don't need to have a slide to do a poll. You can do a poll anytime, but this reflects a lot of times the slide is the context for the poll. When the instructor publishes it, it goes into the presentation, and it's part of the recording as well. So it all gets captured, very, very easy to do. And we even try to make it as super easy as possible, something we call smart polling. So we actually read the text of the slides, the BigBlueButton client reads the text of the slides, and it can tell if there looks like there's poll choices. They all follow a similar format, a carriage return, a single character, a separator. So in this case, it looks like there's a slide with 4 choices. And what we'll do is we'll put the 4 choices there. And that means there's one button for the instructor to do a presentation or to do a poll. Same thing with true, false, and yes, no. And you can also do multiple, your own polling choices as well. Okay, and if you do, you'll just appear on the buttons below. Okay, so there's also emojis or emote icons. So you can click the handset icon, choose from a list of icons, happy, sad. Again, trying to engage the students and try to enable the instructor to get a better sense of the students. In terms of mobile, I have to say we did some work with CloudMosa, and I have to say the Puffin Browser is actually pretty cool. It has the ability to run a Flash application inside of iOS, and the latest version will allow you to broadcast your webcam and microphone. I already showed some screenshots of the video doc. Just removed all the borders around it, made it very clean. And the future plans for BigBlueButton: HTML5 Client, closed captioning, breakout rooms, stuff that we're working on, faster desktop sharing, full screen mode, shared whiteboard, synchronized video playback, and shared notes. These are all things either working on or in the future. And in terms of the mobile, you can, for those of you who follow the project, there's 3 clients we're working on. The web client, which you can see we're writing breakout rooms and polling and closed captioning. The Android client, and I say it's really the HTML5 client, but I say Android because Android supports, has Google Chrome, which has really good support for WebRTC. And for iOS, unfortunately, Apple prevents you and us from installing any other browser. All the existing browsers are really just wrappers around the Safari rendering engine, and Safari doesn't support WebRTC. So it means there has to be a native client for Apple. But check out the Puffin Browser, it's kind of cool. But nonetheless, we are working on a native client, and we're using Adobe Air to do it. And that'll be for iOS, and if we do iOS, we get Android as well. But the HTML5 client's pretty cool. So we've been, these are screenshots. You can actually try the latest builds of it up on demo.bigbluebutton.org. If you take an Android tablet or an Android phone and access that site, you will be going to the HTML5 client. When you do, it changes. It's under constant development. We're not at beta yet, but you can see what the latest builds look like. So here it is in landscape mode. This is in portrait mode, and this is in full screen mode. And we're working on a viewer capabilities for the first release of the HTML5 client. Again, it's still in development, not yet beta. And by viewer, I mean a student could be on a public transportation, for example, unable to get to a desktop, bring out their tablet or their phone, see the presentation, see the desktop sharing, two-way chat, two-way audio, respond to polls, emojis. That's the goal. And over time, we'll add presentation controls, we'll add two-way video, and moderator controls. And you can see it become more and more parity with the web-based client, which is in Flash. So let me talk a few things about what we've been working on this week. Lots of refactoring has gone on the server over the years. So sort of stepped back and sort of asked ourselves the naming conventions, some of the ways we're sharing data back and forth. None of that will be ever visible to the user, but from a development and maintainability and bringing new developers on the project, we think there's some things we can do in the back end to make it more consistent. I'll talk a moment on some of the API updates we're thinking of in terms of a newer version of the API. We've been working on some fixes to Red 5, which is again the MCU that's behind BigBlueButton. Been exploring FreeSwitch 1.6, which has more capabilities for broadcasting and receiving video. That's what we're kind of looking at for getting away from Java to do desktop sharing. And the HTML5 client presentation, I'll leave that, the details, the next presentation. And we're working out breakout rooms and closed captioning. We did a sprint this week, and I can show you some of the designs we've got for the breakout rooms. So the BigBlueButton API is probably about 5-6 years old now, and we've sort of been stepping back and looking at what could we do if we were to rewrite the API using what modern best practices are. So the current API isn't going away, it'll be there, but what we're looking at doing is adding an alternative API, same capabilities, but something that would be more familiar to people. Things like authenticating using OAuth 2.0, use JSON in the body for the payload. Right now we use XML. Actually version number of the URL so we can update it, and just create a consistent naming structure. So we'll be publishing a draft of that to BigBlueButton Dev. That's the developer mailing list, and you'll have a chance to see it in the near future. In terms of the native mobile client, the good folks at MConf have been doing some work on that area as well. What we want to do is work together to create a Flex mobile air client based on Flex 4, targeting viewer capabilities. You can see some of the work that MConf has done if you go to the MConf website. And we've got a site up, a depository at BigBlueButton, which we are going to basically be building on some earlier work that we did. And again, the goal is to have an open source Adobe Air-based client that can be compiled into iOS or an Android. In terms of the breakout rooms, the idea is that it appears in their option inside for moderators inside the gear icon. And when choosing, it will allow you, the moderator, to take the list of users who's in the session. It will randomly put it amongst however many breakout rooms the user asks, or the moderator asks. You can set a time limit for it, and then you can move them around by drag and drop, or maybe not assign them to a breakout room, and click Start. This is the design, and this is what we're working on. In terms of once the students are in the breakout rooms, what will happen is once the moderator puts them into breakout rooms, Probably a dialog box will come up. The students will say, the box will say you've been assigned to say Breakout Room 2. Student clicks it, and a new tab will open up. So a second browser tab will open up, which they'll go into a different room, the Breakout Room 2, and then they'll be able to come back after they're done. So the people are kind of doing this already by in the LMS defining like room 1, room 2, room 3, room 4 during the class, telling students, okay, go back to the LMS, join a breakout room, whichever one you've been assigned to, and in 15 minutes come back. We're trying to automate that so the moderator has control over it. And to give the moderators some capabilities to participate in the breakout rooms as well. So the user's window would show a table underneath when breakout rooms are active, and the instructor could click on it to listen into a breakout room. This is just FreeSwitch changing the B leg of the audio because it's FreeSwitch is doing all the conferencing. And it'd be similar to walking around the classroom and just listening to what students are saying, and the ability to join it as well. That would open up a new tab for the moderator as well. In the students tab, let's say there's 15 minutes, they would see it count down. Once it reaches 0, their room would close. They'd come back into the main room, which they would already have opened in the first tab, rejoin the audio, maybe present about what they did. And that's the first cut of breakout rooms. And the last bit, all the documentation for this is available at our website. We try really hard to keep it up to date. So if you have information questions about the project, certainly check out the docs and the developer mailing list as well. And that's an update. And if there's any questions, probably at this point, just post it to the mailing list. There's going to be another presentation in a few minutes on the HTML5 client, which I think will probably be of interest to a lot of people. And that's an update. So thanks for joining, and we'll look forward to seeing the mailing list and sharing lots of more good things about BigBlueButton, as you can see from this presentation. Take care, everybody.